This is going to be horrible. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm so sorry that I had to leave out and start over again. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but I'm going to start over. So tonight we're going to be talking about parenting and how communication, consequence, and autonomy really is like important, and how things change from the time that we are working with our children as young children to adolescence to adulthood. I have my little daughter here. Well, my ace. She's 26 years old. She turned 26 yesterday, and she volunteered to help me tonight. We are having our we had a snowstorm tonight, so that's why I'm home. So I just wanted to just thank you all for joining. If you are, we started at 7, but then I had some technical difficulties, so we just started over. So I'm gonna give people some time to get in. I do appreciate it if you can log back in. It'd be great. Put something in the chat. Hello. All right. So, anywho, so tonight we're going to be talking about respect. We're going to be talking about how we communicate with one another and how we bring autonomy, especially when we're working with our young adults. It is so important that when we are working with our young adults, we honor them. But not only with young adults, we have to honor each other even as children. So I asked Tiaja earlier, when she was growing up, did she feel like respect was modeled or demanded? So what did you say?
I said it was modeled.
Okay. And why was it modeled? Or how would you say it was modeled?
Like I said earlier, it was just the way that we were raised, always raised to say thank you, please, you're welcome. We was always raised to just not, I'm not going to say we were raised to be nice and not like be ourselves, but when it came down to like our elders or just, someone older than us, we just be respectful. Because like I said before, respect is given. And when you respect others, people will also respect you.
All right. So would you say that respect was modeled through connection, or would you say respect was modeled through fear?
It was modeled through connection.
Okay. And then do you feel like a child can be obedient and still feel emotionally unsafe?
Yeah.
How?
I say that a child can be obedient but feel emotionally unsafe because if your parent is instilling in you, you got to be respectful, you have to do this, you have to do that. But if you're being aggressive in a way about it, not like yelling or anything like that, but being aggressive to the point where like it's like you got to do this, you got to do that, you can't make no mistakes, you if you don't say no ma'am, something's gonna, you're getting in trouble. So like you could be obedient, but obedient out of fear and not obedient out of what was taught to you.
Okay. So basically like you can be in a household that things are going well and you're doing what you're told, but you're only doing what you're told because out of fear of being hurt.
Yeah.
Or something being taken away or not being able to have something. So that would go back into that space of if you're feeling respected by connection or fear, and that would be that fear person, right? If someone's feeling unsafe, that makes sense. And is silence always respect or sometimes just survival in the home? Like, have you ever felt that?
I never felt like I had to survive in my home.
Okay.
Like, for me, I'm very like, I'm silent, but I'm silent in a sense of, and it's not all the time, but it's most of the time, like I'm silent in the sense of not knowing what to say in the moment. Because I have a tendency of just talking, just to talk. And I'm realizing that now. So like, now when I'm silent, it's not me being disrespectful. It's just me, okay, let me think about what I want to say before I say it. Because if I don't think about it, other parties will be upset or, just feel some way about what I said when, it wasn't meant to be in that way.
Do you feel like now that you're a young adult, that if it's hard to use your voice when talking to your parents?
I wouldn't say hard, at least not for me.
Mhm.
I'm very like private. So my parents think that it's me being secretive, but it's not. It's as having a mother as a therapist, you would think that it's easy for me to like talk and open up, but no, I'm a private person. So if I open up, it's because, it's been asked, or maybe because I need some, what's the word? Guidance, or,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. How do you feel like you could ask your parents to give you space, or you feel like you're not being respected as a young adult? Or was there any time in growing up in your, like when you were like an adolescent, or when you were just like maybe in elementary, that you felt like you weren't being respected by your parents?
I would say as a young adult right now, and I speak for many, I think when it comes to us and we get to a certain age, our parent, especially if we have parents who were like always there and just like always on top of us and making sure we, they did the best for us, they have a hard time with taking a step back. They don't want to see us fail. They don't want to see us make mistakes that they made. But at the same time, we can't go through life without making mistakes. So it's like when you're breathing down your adult child back all the time about something that they're doing or whatever, we have to learn. I mean, we're in our mid 20s or whatever, but you really don't grow up until you hit about your 30s. You're still learning. And so I just feel like, mistakes happen, but you got to take a step back from your young adult, because then if you don't, they'll start resenting you. It's like resentment. And then the young adult that you had as an adolescent that always shared stuff with you, they're not going to want to do that, because it's like they don't want to hear the criticism. Oh, you should have did this right, or you should have did that. It's like, that's not what we want to hear. Just be like, okay, let me give you some guidance, and for the next time, just take that guidance and just think about what I said.
Well, was there any time growing up prior to hitting adulthood that you felt that your parents were not respecting you? This is an honest space here. I don't want you to feel like you can't be honest.
Oh, no, I know. I'm just trying to think. Like,
or hold on, Monica says, or they won't know how to survive because parents always save them.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I agree.
I'm no longer saving you.
And she still does. Growing up, no, not really.
Do you feel like we ever intimidated you, or kind of like emotionally intimidated you, or like used our authority to kind of make you feel like manipulated or anything like that?
I wouldn't say manipulated, but I will say like growing up, especially like I said before, I got in trouble a lot in school. Instead of, I'll be honest with you, the whoopings really never did anything for me because I was used to it. I knew when I got in trouble was
hold up. You've been talking about these, y'all. We did a live last year, I think, and she talked about these whoopings. And I'm trying to figure out, how many whoopings did you actually receive?
I got some whoopings.
How many whoopings did you get,
compared to Simone?
Zero? Okay, but you making it seem like we like what?
No, you didn't. You didn't.
I got comfortable. I mean,
every time I got in trouble in school.
But at the end of the day,
no, I didn't. I never felt intimidated.
Let me just break this down. Tiaja was definitely more problematic in school than Simone, because Tiaja would go to school and be a follower, and Tiaja would get into these groups with people, with other kids who just was acting a fool. And here I am, PTO president or whatever, and on the governor's council and everything, and I'm getting calls from the principal, the teachers, about Tiaja acting up. So there were times where it was frustration on my part. And I'm not going to say that it was right, because sometimes as parents too, we still have to respect or understand what our kids might be going through. But Tiaja was pushing buttons, y'all. And I told y'all earlier, I had Tiaja at pretty much 19 years old. So when she's in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, I'm still a young 20-year-old mom, married and all that. But it was still kind of like, what are you doing? Like, better. So I think that's where, for me, I feel like Tiaja wasn't respecting me. And, because I didn't know better at the time, I felt like disciplining her was the only thing I could do. And now as I've grown and I've learned, I realize that sometimes discipline looks different than yelling, hitting, and all that. And so that was a learning thing. But I always laugh because this young woman, always makes it seem like she was just getting beat. And I'm I don't understand why you keep talking about that. I don't try
to make it seem like that. But I just bring up, you talking about, intimidation and stuff like that. And so I just bring it back for that time because
you was intimidated by the hits.
I really wasn't. Okay. Like, they didn't bother me. I just thought they were like, I'm saying they never like,
So what do you feel bothered you when things were like, when you got in trouble? Like, what were those things?
When you didn't hear me out and why I did what I did, or why I was doing what I was doing. It wasn't me, because I will say this: a lot of parents use the word following too much.
Okay.
Instead of using following, think of it as, this is just, how your child is. Your child's not bad, but if your child is goofy, or just really can't help themselves, it's like sometimes it's gonna happen. It's not being a follower. It's just like, for me right now, I use the word oh my gosh, what is the word? Like, when you got it come to your head, so you gotta do it. What's the word? When, like, it's just stuff.
Do y'all know?
I'm trying to think of it like, when you just gotta do something, you're thinking about it.
Impulsive?
There you go.
Yeah, you've been impulsive.
See? Like, and that's what I'm saying.
But that's been a good thing for me, like, as a therapist and where I am today. So that's why when I see, like, I know my child is ADHD. I know she is, right? However, because I didn't know that when she was younger, I missed all the signs, right? Because if you know anything about attention deficit disorder, many young girls don't really get diagnosed until they're in like 3rd, 4th, sometimes not even until they're like in middle school. And so it's different for them for when a young boy gets diagnosed. So for me, like, growing up and not knowing what that was, and just thinking behaviors were just bad, that's how I feel like I didn't respect my child, right? So not hearing her out is actually a part of the disrespect, right? So we sometimes as parents feel like our kids are being disrespectful to us because they keep talking. But a lot of it is when a child is unable to process, and every time they open their mouths and you cut them off, right? That's a sign that you're disrespecting them, right? But that's also a sign that there might be something going on, because if your child can't process enough or fast enough to tell you how they're feeling, it's nothing that, they're just being bad or they're making excuses. Sometimes their brain is really trying to process what they're trying to say. So I appreciate you being, transparent with that, because that's something that I had to learn, that you are ADHD. But even as an adult, that's something that I tell you. And so that's, now that you're an adult, you have to take accountability for those things, because the impulsiveness is still there.
It is.
All right.
I agree. I can't sit down for nothing.
Yeah. That's why she didn't want to do the interview with me, y'all, because she knew she's struggling. But hey, that's what happens. She's 26 now. But do you guys have any like questions, or do you have any examples of, is it something that maybe, you want to ask one of us, or, give us a story of anything that you feel like maybe you could have respected your children in a different way or in a better space while they were growing up, and now that they are young adults. And then I want to go into respect and childhood. So the first one was respect beyond rules, but now this one is more of like respect and childhood, parent versus child. So this is for the chat, y'all. This is for the chat. So I'm asking, do we speak to children in ways we would never speak to adults? So if you have young children, do you speak to them in a way that you would never speak to another adult? The answer for me is no. If I cannot speak to my children with respect, but I can go out and speak to an adult with respect, then that's a problem, right? But then I also want to take that a little different and say, do you speak to adults the way that you wouldn't speak to your children? Because sometimes we will speak so horribly to an adult who's struggling, and then we would be patient with a child. And we have to understand that at some point, that might be harsh too. So when it comes to parenting, our parents sometimes will speak to, you might speak to your children like nicely, but then in the house, you're speaking to your partner or someone harshly. And the children just picks up on that, which causes children then thinking that it's okay to speak to adults harshly. So although we don't always think that, oh, okay, well, I don't speak to my children that way. But if we're modeling, because part of that respect is modeling, we have to model how our children should speak to people outside of the house and in the home. So if we're speaking to a child with respect, but then we're speaking to another adult with disrespect, more than likely that child is going to go out and speak to other adults and other children with disrespect. So that's a big thing. So yes, we may not speak to our children with negative tones or nastiness, but if our children are seeing us speak to other people that way, they will pick it up. What do you think?
I agree. I see it firsthand working at a school.
Yeah.
So I definitely do agree with that. And once a child especially hits a certain age, it's instilled in them to the point where, like, if they are getting in trouble at school because of the way that they're speaking to adults and, cursing or anything like that, the getting in trouble by the school or just outside of school, it doesn't bother them because it's been instilled with them for so long that it's learned behavior, and they think that, that's how they're supposed to speak.
And so I also wanted to ask, like, in the chat as well, like, are you correcting or were you correcting your child's behavior, or were you attacking their identity, right? And so that's a question that I think is so important when we talk about respecting one another, because as adults, sometimes we can really, really be attacking our child identity. So somewhat of what Tiaja was saying earlier about, like, not letting her speak. By me not letting her speak when she was younger, that caused her to shut down at times as she got older. So although I didn't see it at that time, because respecting or helping her correct the behavior would have been me listening to her and then giving her a corrective statement. But for me, it went from me just wanting to, like, go against who she was. Like, she was struggling, but I didn't see it as struggle. I just saw it as her misbehaving. So all I did was yell, right? Or popped her or whatever. She says beat, but I popped her, right? Or yelled at her, embarrassed her. And so I was not correcting the behavior. I was literally hurting her identity. I was hurting her more than I was helping her. And so those are things that we had to work through, so that she could be a better adult now, or a better adolescent then. But when she was a child, I definitely did not correct the behavior properly. And, I was more so attacking her identity, and that was that she couldn't help it,
Well, I will say, you did correct the behavior the right way. And I will say the right way because if you didn't, I wouldn't be who I am today. So I will say, like, it was corrected. Like, me getting yelled at and stuff like that. Like I said, it never bothered me because, like, I heard what you were saying to me. Like, I understood where you were coming from, and I understood that, like, what I'm doing in school or outside of school was not okay, considering the fact that that's what I grew up on. Now, when you were talking about do parents talk do parents talk to their kids the way that they would speak to another adult? And when I say that, I mean, like, negatively. It's like, also, what your child is, what is your child seeing from other children?
Yeah.
At the same time, not just the parent, because the parent could be the best parent. They'll cuss around their kids. They're not arguing, not fighting. But now you're not with your child 24 hours out of the day.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are they seeing at school? What are they seeing at the clubs that they're in, sports? Because you have children who think it's okay, to cuss because, oh, my friend Barry said this, and so, I thought it was fine.
Right.
I had a kid, last week in the classroom. He said hell like it was nothing, and he was very like, he was like, what? My mom says it. And we had to correct him because, but still, it's like, it's not just from the parent, it's from outside sources, and not adults, kids too.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If y'all didn't catch the beginning of the first one, Tiaja has been nominated the Paraprofessional of the Year in her elementary school that she works at. So clap it up for TT. I think that is so great. She's amazing with children. She has a psychology degree and will be heading off to school, hopefully, for her master's in school in speech pathology. Tiaja is doing very well. She works with children with autism and other intellectual disabilities. And, I'm so grateful that she is patient and she's kind and she's compassionate with these young people. And so it really does show in just how she works with them and how she is very patient with the people the kids that she worked with. So give it up for my baby girl. I'm hoping that she wins. Clock it. The clock.
Well, it's not Snap.
I'll be trying. All right. So do you guys think that, why do you guys think that relationships between children and teenagers and parents get strained around that teenage year? Like, what do you think is happening, or why you think that, like, maybe our relationship, do you think our relationship was strained? Okay. So why do you think that, like, a lot of parents' relationships get strained with their teenagers as they grow?
Privacy. I think when you get to a certain age, especially for me, like when you hit high school, or not really high school, 8th grade going into high school, it's like you're really seeing, like, you like boys, you like girls, when they don't really do it now, but like when I was in middle school going to high school, it was a lot of parties happening. It was where it wasn't so much crime at the time going on. So like you were able to step out with your friends and go out, and you have kids that their parents allow them to go to these parties or go to the mall with their friends. But then you have other kids who parents don't allow them to do anything like that because they don't feel safe, or you're not old enough, or they don't trust them. And the trust is a big thing within the teenage years of the child and the parent. And without the trust, the teenager feels that, we're older now. We're seeing a lot of things. And if you don't trust me, why should I trust you with my feelings or me being truthful to you when you can't even trust that? You can't trust the young adult that you're raising up, if that makes sense.
So there is a question in the chat. Davine says, what can you do to give them that space, but yet parent them? Would you like to answer on your end, or do you want me to answer? On
my end, coming from a young adult, or just
like when you were younger, like what do you think I could have done differently?
I would definitely say, like, ask me, do you need to talk about anything? Do you need space? Do I need to come back in a certain amount of time, let you calm down, and then we could talk about it? I definitely think that asking those questions first are, is very important. But space is definitely needed. Like, just because we're children and, we're still learning, we still need our space, because that's, it's a lot to cope with.
Okay. And I also feel like I agree 100%, like, to being able to ask, but also to make sure that you don't take it personal when a child is needing space. I think sometimes as parents, we automatically want to save or correct the behavior without even knowing what's going on with the child. Young, like adolescent age is very, very like sticky, because this is a time where children are learning who they are. They're changing from being a little girl or boy to now kind of like going into teenage years, and they got hormones going on. So there are going to be changes within them that they don't even understand. So really, really just giving them that time to be open, and knowing that they're going to make some mistakes, and they're going to act foolish, and they're going to say things that are just like off the wall, but try not to take it personally. Many times teenagers, they will just respond out of emotion or impulsivity, and you can't always take it as, oh, you disrespecting me. No, sometimes you can just say, you know what, I'm going to give you your space, and then we're going to come back and we're going to have a conversation. Because when you do that, you give them an opportunity to then come back and respond with, you know what, I'm sorry, mom, I'm sorry, dad, that I responded that way. Like, I will do better. And so, sometimes you can do that. So you're not constantly like trying to discipline them just because they're having a moment and they cannot regulate fast enough for you.
And one thing I will say too, like journaling was like a good part for me. I kept a diary from like middle school, young age, and that helped a lot, because that allows you to that allows your child to basically write down the feelings that they're feeling without having to tell you. Because when you get it out, it's such a relief. But when you're holding it in, but you also don't feel you don't feel comfortable telling your parent how you're feeling, at least you can write it down, go back into it. Once you calm down and be like, okay, this is what I wrote. Maybe now I'll feel comfortable talking to my parent, because now I wrote down my feelings, and now I can just go ahead and read that, look through it, and just be like, okay, mom, dad, this is what I need from you. This is how I feel. Can you help me? And even if they don't really want to talk about what was written down, just have a journal, because you built up that, all that stuff built up follows you within, as you get older, and that's not healthy.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much. And then Latoya says, I had a hard time listening to my children. When I did listen, I listened with a rebuttal in mind, but now I'm learning to just be present and listen. No words, just listening. Yeah, sometimes that's great, because we, even as adults, we need that. We need someone just to listen to us, so when you think about like our children sometime needing us to just hear them out without, what's that term? Like, we don't listen to hear, we listen to respond. Mm-hmm. Like if you take out the respond and just say, I want to hear what they're saying and listen to them, and I want to be able to just hear what they're saying. And if they ask for my opinion, then I can respond. But when someone says, can I talk to you? Like, really listen to what they're saying without feeling like you got to come up with the response. And I do believe that sometimes raising teenagers, it's hard for adults or parents to get that, because again, we still want the authority, right? We still want to kind of control them. And so we can say, oh, I'm just trying to parent them. But sometimes it's important to put the real word on there, and that is to control the situation. And so that's when we go into, are we afraid of giving our children autonomy, right? And what does autonomy looks like to you? And I feel that giving your child autonomy is allowing them to understand and explore who they are. I think a lot of parents are threatened by that, right? Your child is changing from that little girl, that little boy that you remember when they were 9, 10 years old. And now, they're feeling themselves, and, they're doing things that you don't all necessarily agree with. And so instead of you like listening to their point of view or hearing them out, it's more like, no, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't like this. Like, you don't need to have a boyfriend. You don't need to have a girlfriend, or you don't need to work, or, you just need to do this. I want you to do this because I did this in elementary school, in middle school. We're sometimes as parents scared of what that autonomy may look like. because sometimes giving your child autonomy means that you might lose your child, or you guys might not have that that connection anymore, because they don't like the things that you like, because when they were younger, they had to kind of follow whatever you did. So now that they've gotten older and they're on their own path, it's kind of hard or scary for some parents to allow their children to have autonomy. Do you feel like that happened with you in any way, like between me and your dad? Do you feel like we gave you autonomy, or you feel like we were threatened by it?
You guys gave me autonomy. I was able to really find myself and discover who I am and was as I got older. So I would definitely say, yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't sheltered.
All right. So. Do you feel that teenagers could be they can disagree with their parents without being disrespectful?
Yes, but it all depends on the parent, though, because you can be respectful to your parent and disagree, but it's your parent be respectful to you. Just because you're the parent does not mean that you can disrespect your child. So if your child is coming to you and telling you they don't like something, or they need, like we were talking about, space, they need the space, or they want to do something, the comeback shouldn't be you yelling. The comeback shouldn't be you, just being disrespectful to them. It should be asking questions like, okay, well, if you could do this for me, like, for instance, I've been asking you to clean your room. You clean your room, I'll give you some space to go hang out with your friends or something like that. That makes, so I feel like the child could be respectful, but it also depends on the parent. Okay. It can be, two-way street.
All right. Do you feel that respect should look the same for a child that's 8 and a young adult who's 26? Do you feel like that should look the same?
The respect from the child to the parent? Yes and no. Because 8 years old, it's like they know respect, but they also don't really have control over their emotion. So if you're not giving them that space to be themselves, they can react in a way, rather than a 26-year-old. We know how to act some. We know how to act, we know how to control our emotions, but it's up to us. Like, we're gonna pick and choose if we're gonna be respectful or not. But an 8-year-old really doesn't, I don't know. In my opinion, they really don't have that emotional boundary,
So it'd be no.
Yeah.
So a 26-year-old respecting their parent is different from an 8-year-old respecting their parent.
I would say.
I agree. Because, again, like you said a big thing. You said an 8-year-old don't really understand compared to a 26-year-old. They do understand. But it's the same with a parent. Yeah. I have to respect you, right? I have to make sure that regardless of what I think, like, okay, so I can give you an example. When you got your car, when you wanted to get a new car, and I was like, Tiaja, you should just wait, blah, blah. You were like, no, I'm getting my car. And so I was just like, okay, I have to respect her decision. She works, she does what she does, and I'm going to support her, and that's it. And that was what I had to do. As much as I didn't want her to, I wanted her to take a break. Because I think for me, I just felt like all this stuff was happening. I felt like God was trying to sit you down, right? God needed to sit you down. And, when I went and I did go and talk to God, and God was saying, yeah, but, you're no longer responsible for her covering per se. And so I had to let it go. And I asked God just to help me and to help her. And that's when I was like, okay, I got to respect her wishes, even though I don't agree with her decision. So, yeah, I guess so. Even like with my mama, I'm about to be 45, and my mama sometimes, she wants me to do things, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. And she has to respect my decision. Or if she tells me I shouldn't do something and I still do it, vice versa. So how do you give them, so Davine asked again, how do you give them space and advice at the same time, especially when you see them falling into something? That's a good question. Again, I can bring up the example of Tiaja. Can I tell your story? I tell Tiaja stuff all the time, David. And one thing that I can respect about Tiaja is that she will listen. She will listen. Doesn't mean she's always going to do exactly what I've asked her to do, but she will listen to what I have to say, and we'll go back and forth. She'll have her points. I'll have mine. So Tiaja's car was stolen January 3rd of this year. And about 2 weeks before this happened, she came to me. We were playing Scrabble or something. And we were talking, and she was saying how she wanted to go away for her boyfriend's birthday. But then she was saying she really don't want to go, but he wanted to go. And I told her, if you don't think that, or you don't feel like you should be going anywhere, you shouldn't be going. And I was like, so if it's deep in your spirit like that, more than likely, I'm gonna always bring it back to God. If you are feeling a little off, then you shouldn't do it. But lo and behold, Tiaja decides that she's still gonna make plans to go away. She didn't go out of the state, but she went out of the area, and she stayed in a different town, and her car was stolen. And it was so weird because it's like, you came to me, you asked me, what should I do, or should I not go? I gave my advice. You didn't take it, but I still gave you your space. And what ended up happening is that now your car was stolen, and priceless things were in that car. So now you've fallen, like you've lost your car, you've lost some things that didn't belong to you, things that did belong to you. But you got to deal with the consequence. She has to deal with the fact that now she got to go through the process of getting a police report and going through all these things. And the only thing I could do was, when she called me, I went to New Haven, help, made sure she was safe. She still didn't want to leave, but she stayed, and, all these things. But I did my part. But then I just walked away, and I allowed her to handle it herself. Why? Because sometimes they're going to fail. They're going to fall, and sometimes it's a bad fall. But as long as we as parents do our part, where we pray for them, we give them the best advice that we can, sometimes we have to let them fall. And I felt so bad for her, getting her, losing her vehicle. And I know that was a car that she really, really enjoyed, and she loved that car. But I was just thinking to myself, like, she had to go through this, because if she didn't go through this, then the next time, or if it could have been worse, right? When I'm telling her, you got to listen to your gut. When God says no, it's going to go through your body as
And I learned my lesson. I will say, I learned my lesson. Being there, I went mainly because I was excited about the activity that we were doing. So that was like, it was like, yeah, I really didn't want to go, but like also I was just very excited, and I was, just ready. And, when it happened, I was in disbelief. Like, I was hysterical. I was crying. I was sad. I was nervous. But then it's like, I thought about what my mom was saying, I shouldn't have gone. Or if I did go, I could have just went for the day and came back. But also too, like she said, I'm still learning certain areas, where I really don't know. And instead of, asking the questions, or just because, like I said earlier, I'm very private. So sometimes me being private is like, it's a hit and miss. But I definitely, that was a lesson learned for me. And a lot of things that my mom does say to me now, I do take, and go with it, because I have PTSD now. So.
But do you think that I've allowed you to fall a lot?
I would say yes. And I say yes because, look, the things that I've done that have not, and they're not big things, but the things that I've done that have like just went back on me, like for not good reasons, you told me. You've given your opinion. You never stopped me, but you've always given your opinion. And sometimes I listen, sometimes I don't, but I definitely do believe that.
Yeah. So sometimes, our children just have to fall. And then again, going back to not taking it personal, you cannot take their failure as something that you did wrong, especially if you've given the advice that they asked for and you allow them to have the autonomy to make their own decision. You cannot take it as, oh my gosh, like, oh my God, I messed up my kid, or no, you can't do that, because young people are going to make decisions, and children in general, we have to give children autonomy, or young people autonomy, because just like if you were never given any autonomy, what did that do for you as an adult? So when you're raising children and they're growing into adulthood, you still have to give them autonomy and give them space to just mess up, because if not, they won't grow and have wisdom.
I will say too, going back to just autonomy as a young adult, as a parent, the one thing I will say, when you're giving your children that space and they do mess up, yelling does not help, because all it's going to do is make them not want to listen to you anymore or again, and go back into doing something crazy again. Mm-hmm. So it's like, don't yell, talk. Okay, listen. Like from when I was hysterical with my car, my mom, she was yelling on the phone, but I wasn't hearing that. I was just seeing my car was going, and I almost hung up on her, because I don't. Right now, I'm sad. I don't want you to yell at me. Just talk to me. I'm asking you questions. When you're yelling at a young adult, it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't get anywhere.
Mm-hmm. You almost hung up on me?
I did, because I'm trying to talk to you, and I'm crying, I'm hysterical, and you ain't listening.
Well, I was listening. I think for me, and I'm be honest, like she said she had called me, but she didn't. So I wasn't really upset with the fact that I was trying to say something negative. It was more so, I was more in that space of, why is someone else calling me to tell me your car got stolen, or to call you? So I do apologize for that. And again, we as parents, guys, especially parents of young adults, sometimes it's hard to see them as young adults, right? Because as they're growing, we still kind of see them as little kids. And I'm pretty sure our parents can attest to that. So to see your kids growing and now they're young adults, it's hard to step back. It's hard to give advice and step back, because again, you just want to see them like shine. And I think for me, it was just more so like, you just got this car. This is your third car. This is about to be your third car in 1 year.
No, 2.
And so I think like all that stuff came running up, and I was just like,
Okay, so not off topic, but I'm gonna switch it. Do you think kids can give their parents autonomy? And I'm asking because I be up in your business a lot, mm-hmm. about where you're going, what you're doing, mm-hmm. and stuff like that. And I'm asking because a lot of adults don't like to take opinions and stuff from their young adult.
I definitely agree with what you're saying. I think I do pretty well with listening. When you and Simone give me advice and y'all say certain things, I do pay attention to what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And depending on what it is, I may hear you, but may not, it may not work for me. Mm-hmm. But I will say that there are certain times where you guys might ask or tell me I shouldn't do something. And I'm like, that sounds good, but you don't know everything, yeah. Right? So just like we don't always know everything, but I definitely believe that autonomy can go both ways, right? But I also feel that as parents, sometimes as we get older and you guys get older, there are certain things that we will go to you with, mm-hmm. but there are certain things that we won't. And sometimes it's due to protection. And just like for you as a young adult and as you grow, there are certain things you're not going to talk to me about. And I have to be okay with that. And there are certain things that I don't want to talk to you about or Simone about, because you guys are my children, right? And so I think that it can go both ways. But I think that either way, you should always have someone to talk to and express things. Mm-hmm. But I definitely listen to advice. that's given, you know. So I respect both you and Simone's advice, because I do believe that you guys have great advice, you know, and I do talk to you about a lot of things. So I think I do a pretty good job.
I just ask because some parents don't take advice.
Yeah, some
because
parents
they
don't.
think that their child's too young because they didn't grow up yet, so they don't know what they're talking about. But there's a lot of intelligent kids, young adults out there, and you know.
And I think I raised you guys to be little old women. I really do. What you think?
Simone,
I think I have. You know, I think I've given you guys I try to talk to you guys in real time.
You talk to us like we're like, my mom has always talked to me and Simone respectfully, but she's talked to us like we were already adults in a sense.
Yeah, sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it might have, because that Simone, I wish she was here, because that's Simone sometime. But Tina says, I may not yell at that moment, but sometimes you have to. Yeah, sometimes it's an emotional outcry. It's not something that you're doing to be hurtful, although it might feel hurtful on the other end, right? Sometimes when you are emotionally dysregulated, you say and do things that, you know, you feel good about it at the time, but we don't always think about how that impacts the other person, right? And so it's a learning curve for all of us. Like, we cannot expect we can't expect us to always be in order, and vice versa. So as adults, we're gonna mess up, we're gonna make bad decisions. Children, young adults, they're gonna make bad decisions, and we have to be willing to come back and apologize. We got to be willing to come back and say, you know what, I apologize for speaking to you that way, and vice versa, because that's how you do build autonomy and connection. So I definitely agree with that, Tina. And I think sometimes, you know, yelling or raising your voice sometimes does show it doesn't always have to be anger. It could just be like, I was scared, you know, that happened to you. And then Latoya says, Devine said, mine sure do. Yeah, because, you know, they put the little tracking on my phone. I finally know how to use it. And Tiaja had turned her tracking off one day and tried to tell me she didn't, but I couldn't find her. And then Latoya said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I'm learning to try and give what I need. When I fall, I don't need. And I told you so, but I'm guilty of dishing that out to my kids. That is a big one, right? That's a big one. Like, even when that happened with Tiaja's car, I was like, Tiaja, I told you not to go up there, right? It wasn't more of I told you so, but I knew it was a bad idea. I knew it was a bad idea, and I felt pulled. Because let me just go a little bit further, y'all. Tiaja left Friday and didn't even tell me she made it to where she made it to, right? So this is why I'm saying, like, there's certain times where the I told you so might come out, because I'm telling you that God is saying not to do something and you still do it. And then you turn your location off, or her location wasn't on. She didn't call me like she usually does. And if she would have called and said, Mom, I'm staying on this, I would have said, Tiaja, there is a parking lot, like a little behind the place where you are. You need to go and pay the money and park there, right? And so I think for me, all of that, I told you not to go, was also more so I tried to protect you, right? And so that is where I think some of that came from. So that I told you so mentality is really hard for anybody. I don't like to be said to be said, oh, I told you so. I told you so. But it's more so safety. And as a parent, as a parent of a young adult or a child, period, you always want to make sure they're safe. It's not that sometimes we want to control the situation, but sometimes we know a little bit more where we can protect you. And in those moments, that little phrase that comes out saying, I told you not to, it's not to punch you in the head, but more so like, when I'm trying to protect you, allow me to protect you without feeling like I'm just trying to control you. You know what I mean? So I think, like, Latoya, when you talk about that, I told you so, sometimes that I told you so may not be at the right moment. And it may not always mean like, ha, 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 I told you so, but more so like you came to me with some advice, you didn't take my advice, and now you want me to be like, oh, it's okay. No, I'm going to say, I told you what not to do, and you still did it. It's not to throw it in your face, but it's to basically say, like, the next time if somebody gives you advice, take it.
I agree. I just think with that phrase, I told you so, and this is for anybody, it's a trigger. It's just a trigger because it's like, that's right. I'm not going to say
Tina said, I need you to listen.
It's like in the moment when it's something bad is going on and your parent or just an adult in general, oh, I told you so. That's a trigger because nobody wants, we know we wrong. We know we should have listened. But saying I told you so, that's just, it's like it's something click. Like, leave me alone now. I don't want to talk to you. Leave me alone.
Well, guys, we are out of time. We may have to come back and talk a little bit about trauma and transformation on the same topic because we are running out of time. But I am so happy that Tiaja agreed. Maybe next part 2, I can have Simone do the next part with me if Tiaja's unavailable. But I hope that this helped you guys, and I hope that you can, maybe kind of dig into yourself and see where you can become a better parent to an adult child, or if you are just dealing with some things with your young child or adolescent, that this might have helped with something. If you have any questions, you can always inbox me or put it in the chat. I will always go back and look at it. But if there's not any other questions, we're going to end out because we are 10 minutes behind. So I hope that you guys have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you for joining our 6th episode. This is the number 6 episode. I'm so excited. My goodness. And see us next week. Maybe we'll do part 2 next week. All right. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day or evening. It's your girl, Dr. Tasha Rose, your transparent sister in women's healing. And I want you to know that I love you and God loves you too. Peace.